Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Write or Die Show. I am your host, Randi-lee. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking to Sharon Greenwald, and I want to put a trigger warning at the beginning of this episode because we do talk quite a bit about suicide and suicide attempts. So if that is triggering for you, maybe watch with a loved one or skip this episode. Welcome, Sharon. Excited to have you.
Thank you, Randy. I'm excited to be here.
So tell us a little bit about who Sharon is.
Oh, the first thing that comes to mind is dog lover.
Me too.
Yeah. I just adore animals. Where I'm living now, there are alligators and there are cranes, and I talk to all of them, especially the cranes.
Yeah.
I'll be like, get out of the middle of the road. Like, they know my voice at this point. So.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, and my kids are the same way. And the other word that comes to mind is quirky. I'm definitely not your fitting in one box kind of person at all.
Me neither.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So people will be like, oh my God, you're crazy. It's like, no, not crazy. Just a bit quirky, a bit childlike still inside. I'll never.
I like that. Quirky. I'm going to use that word next time.
Yeah, quirky is a good word. And then after my experience, it definitely changed me. I don't know how to describe it, but it definitely changed me. I mean, I've always been spiritual, but now it's just beyond.
All right. Well, what was this experience?
Okay. A little bit of background. When I was 17 years old, I had an abortion and I immediately regretted it. And subconsciously, I gave myself an eating disorder. And I got extremely depressed, but I thought it was normal because I had nothing to compare it to. It's my depression, right?
Yeah.
And I remember looking in the medicine cabinet and thinking, the next time I feel this much pain emotionally, I'm going to kill myself. And for me, it was a crutch. Whenever something horrible was happening, it's like, well, I can kill myself. So if I can't deal, I always have an out. And that's the way I lived my life. And then when I gave birth to my daughter, unfortunately, I had postpartum, which totally ruined the bonding experience. And
yeah.
When I
how long of a time frame between the abortion and when you had your daughter?
17 and then 31.
That's a pretty big chunk, actually. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there was one more depressive episode in between when my first fiance cheated on me and then left. So yeah, and it was so funny because my father came into the city that morning to drop something off, and he goes, "Do you want me to have him killed?"
Oh my God, Dad!
It's okay, Dad.
Dad.
I still remember that. It was very funny.
I love you too, Daddy.
Oh, always.
Yeah. Well, that's a nice sentiment, but yeah, actual going through with it, not so much.
Yeah, no, I was like, yeah, you can live. Yeah. So then in
you just can't live with me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't want him to live with me.
Exactly.
So it was 2005 when, oh wow, I've never told this part of the story. And it's a really big part of it.
Ooh.
I had these things in the back in my garden so that the deer would stay away. It was like these high sounds that no one heard except the deer or whatever.
Okay.
And they weren't working that well. So this guy came out, one of the people who worked, and he was like, oh my God. He walked out of the car and I was like, Harry Connick Jr., he was really handsome. And after he did whatever he had to do outside, I said, yo, you want a drink? And he came in and he kind of leaned over me to get the glass, like something you wouldn't do unless you were intimate with someone. And he was hitting on me, and I was like, oh, wow. And that was it. And my whole life spiraled after that because I realized that I wasn't happy with my husband and I needed to get out there and date and get that feeling again where I really connect with someone. I mean, I didn't do anything with him, but it just set the wheels in motion. And I lost 30 pounds in like 3 weeks.
Whoa, that's a lot. So some people might be thinking, oh, that's so good. That's actually not the way our body should get rid of weight. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that. And do you know why? Like, were you not eating anymore, or was it?
I couldn't eat, but I would wake up like 3 pounds thinner. My body was just doing its own thing. It was falling apart, really. I call it my nervous breakdown.
Yeah.
And then finally I was like, I need to ask for a divorce. So I asked Gary, my ex-husband, for a divorce, and I'm the one who fell apart. And
Well, even though you're the one asking, I mean, it's still a big life-changing thing to happen. And just because you know it needs to happen doesn't mean it make it any easier to do it.
no, people are like, I don't understand why you're sad. You wanted the divorce. And it's like, no, I needed the divorce. There's a huge difference. I didn't say, I think I'll break up my family today. I had 2 kids. But so then I was crying 8 hours a day. I mean, I knew I was depressed.
Yeah.
So then they're like, well, you have to get help. And I wouldn't do the counseling, marriage counseling, because I knew that I didn't want to stay married and it wasn't fixable. So I went to see a psychologist who took one look at me and was like, you got to pick up these meds immediately, because everyone could see that I didn't see it because I look at myself every day, but everyone else knew something was going on. So, and I saw him for a little while, and then he pissed me off. And one day he just, he pissed me off. He sits back, he says, I don't think you should be getting divorced, because I still care about my ex-husband and I still love him. It's not cheating. It wasn't anything like that. It just, we weren't meant to be together forever. So I just looked at him and I said, you actually haven't heard a fucking word I've said. Slammed the door, walked out. And I feel like that was the beginning of the end for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So keep going with this story. I'm intrigued now. I'm visualizing it all in my head. So now I've seen you slam the door and walk out.
Slam the door, and then I started having surgeries on my tendons because I took an antibiotic that messed me up. So I have reacted to Ambien before, but I was having a complication and I was bleeding internally in a cast. So you can imagine the pain. So it was like, take Ambien to maybe get some sleep, or keep on the meds. I was afraid, being immobile, I was afraid something would happen and I'd be jumping on the bad ankle or something. I went off the meds, and then after a day I was like, well, I don't feel any different. So like an idiot, I stayed off the meds. And I think that's when my demons moved in for good and kept telling me I was a horrible person. I needed to die. My kids wouldn't miss me. And since I was 17, my demons told me that I should be punished the rest of my life because of what I did. So it was a really bad situation.
Yeah. I've definitely been there where I went off the meds and then things got worse and I went back on them. But no, I feel your pain on that one. You think, it's fine. And then we don't realize it ourselves a lot of times. A lot of times it takes somebody else looking in going, what is wrong with you? For us to stop and take that moment and actually look at ourselves in the mirror and go, yeah, something is different. Something isn't right now.
Yeah, no, for me, I thought it was a permanent situation. I was a loser. I'd never be happy again. I deserved to be punished. And I used to look out the window. I lived in the city at the time. And I used to look out the window and look at the people holding hands or all dressed up for Easter or whatever. And I used to just cry because I knew that I was never, in my mind, I knew I was never going to have that again.
Yeah. So how did you finally handle that, finally overcome it?
I overdosed and was in a coma for a week. It was a serious overdose.
Wow, that is serious. So I myself have never actually overdosed, but my child did try. So I don't know from a personal experience, but I do know from a family perspective that is so very difficult to try and help the person who's feeling so lost to the point that they're trying to kill themselves. And for me, I mean, like I said, it was my kid. And he was 10 at the time, I want to say. And I just felt like a horrible mom because how can I help my baby, right? So that's awful. Luckily, he never went into a coma, but we did go to the hospital and IV and then off to the children's mental health hospital. But oh my goodness, so a coma.
Yeah, and when I woke up, which physically and mentally is a nightmare, so do not try to kill yourself. It's just so not worth it in so many ways.
Yeah.
You can get help. But my mom, I don't remember the timing of it, but my mom said, she goes, you're depressed. It's okay. We're going to get you the help and you're going to be better. And a light bulb just went off in my head. And I was like, oh, okay. It's not that this is a permanent thing. Okay, I'm ready to get better. And I was a totally different person with that one sentence. And people say, how can you describe that? I can't describe it. It was just
It
there.
was just finally your time to realize it.
To believe it.
Yeah, exactly. Because just because people say it to you doesn't mean that you are ready to hear it. And that's with anything, whether it's depression or addiction. Addiction is the big one that comes to mind, because it does take people a long time to realize that it doesn't have to be this way.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
it's not an easy route, not an easy road to go down.
No, I
And
seem to always take the hard road, but it's okay. I'm a very strong person, so it's okay. I mean, you know what? One of the best things I ever did was almost die, because I can't imagine myself still suffering the way I was suffering 5 years ago.
yeah.
You know.
And I'm just gonna put a little caveat in there.
Yeah.
It might have been the best thing for you, but we are not saying
No.
anybody should ever try that. That is a no. But we have to, if it's something that has already happened to us, we need to accept that it's already happened to us. But we do not want anyone to suffer through that. And hopefully by sharing what you've already experienced, other people can just accept their own, I like the way you said it, demons, and not have to go down the route that you went down.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I wrote my book, because if someone had said to me, you're feeling this and you're feeling that, I might have been like, well, wait a minute. If I'm feeling that, then maybe I'm depressed because this person is saying that that's depression. Like when I was institutionalized and we isolated, we didn't think anyone loved us, anyone would miss us, we were worthless, we had no reason to be alive. And everyone was saying the same thing. You would think that we took it out of a book or something. And I was like, wait a minute. How can all depressions be so similar? But they really are in a lot of ways.
Yeah, everybody experiences it differently, but there's always some form of commonality throughout it. And that's what makes it depression, right? Every type of illness, whether it's a mental health illness or a physical illness, they all have similar characteristics. And that's why doctors are able to say, hey, you have this or you have that. But we all experience it to various degrees. But you're right, there is some commonalities throughout it, which is why it's so important that people take the time to listen or to read, depending on what they prefer, and really, really figure out what is happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I always wonder, like, what if I had seen something that was describing me as I was then? Maybe I wouldn't have tried to kill myself. Maybe I would have been like, oh, wait, if they're describing depression like that, and I have all that, I see myself in that, maybe I should get some help, because maybe there is hope for me.
Exactly. Yes, there's always hope for people out there, but it does feel hopeless when you're going through that.
Yeah, it was 10 years of hell.
Yeah.
You know,
so you talked about being institutionalized.
Yeah, I was in the medical hospital for 2 weeks, and then I was institutionalized for 2 weeks. And at the beginning, I was so weak and dizzy, and I mean, I would just go against the wall to walk down the hall because I was that dizzy. And then after a day, I started meeting people, because that's just kind of how I am.
Yeah.
And then after a week, I started feeling a little better, and then I started seeing the amusing side of some of the stories that happened. You know, I mean, I was ready to go for therapy, and they're like, well, no, this is just to regulate your meds. And then you go home. And then I went to Weill Cornell for 2 weeks, their outpatient program, which was amazing. But so in there, it's like you have a lot of time just to talk to people and be alone. So, and I don't like free time in that way. I'd be like, can you do something so we're not in our heads or whatever? But I spoke to a lot of people, and I was told by one of the counselors that a lot of people hide things. And I was just like, hi, I'm Sharon. I tried to kill myself and I was in a coma, and now I want to get better. Everyone seemed to be opening up. She's like, you're amazing, because everyone else has been sharing their stories. If I could share that, you know, what could be worse than that? So
exactly. Well, and that's what this show is so important for, is letting people know that all of these guests and me, the host, we all have something. We all have demons that we have dealt with. So if we can talk about it to the big wide world, maybe you can talk about it to just one person, right? Where I'm not saying you gotta announce what you're feeling on social media, but maybe by hearing all of these stories from all these different people, you'll feel ready to tell one person. Because the one thing every single guest has in common is to talk about it.
Yeah, no one had a clue that I was hoarding pills for years, and I made up a will to make sure my kids were okay. Like yeah, and I planned this for years, and then all of a sudden, one weekend, I just knew I could do it out of nowhere. It was just an automatic kind of feeling, but I never thought I would survive. That's the one part I never considered, surviving.
Yeah, and I don't think people who are in that place of wanting to end their pain. I don't want to say wanting to die, because it's not that people want to die when they're so depressed, but it's that we want the pain to end. We want the endless hopelessness to end. And the only way that we see it ending is by killing ourselves. Just because we're sharing in the joy of sharing. I was in one of those moments where I did not see any way to make the situation better. And my plan was to drive off a bridge. And where I live, there's lots of bridges. But I never went through with it. So I didn't have to go through the hospital stay and stuff like you had to. But it's that feeling of endless hopelessness that we're trying to escape. It's not that I wanted to die. It's that I wanted the endless hopelessness to go away. And I've learned, as I'm sure you've learned, that there are other better ways to get that endless hopelessness to go away. Through therapy, through medication, and through whatever else you're about to share right now. What things have you learned that help you to deal with it?
Well, like I said, I was extremely motivated to get better, not knowing that I was even sick, and now there was a way for me to get better. Remembering my children's eyes when I was opening mine. Oh, God, that was horrible.
How old were your kids at the
time? 19 and 21.
They're still babies, but like adult babies.
Yeah, I feel like I changed their life forever. Like, oh yeah, I had a mom who almost died, by suicide. Great.
Yeah.
I had to make peace with that. And I said to them, it had nothing to do with you. I was very sick in the head. It was all, I love you so much. And they know how much I love them. I say it like every second, every day I talk to them. But yeah.
But that's a really good point that you bring up, actually, is that your loved ones might feel responsible for it. So like I was sharing, my son tried to kill himself more than once, actually. Just he did take a bunch of pills as one of the times. And I had to come to terms, though, if it wasn't anything I was doing as a mom, it was what was going on in his head. But that is such a hard thing to process. Just like for your kids, it was probably a very hard thing to process of, what could I have done better? Why didn't I see the signs? Or if I would have only said, whatever it might be. But the thing is, it doesn't come from the outside. Now, we can be supportive, right? I take my kids to all of his appointments. I tell him I love him every day. Ever since he was little, it's I love you bigger, bigger. That's just how I've always said I love you to him, and he goes, I love you bigger, bigger too. That's our little thing. But that's all I can do, is be there and be supportive of him and sit with him when he wants to hang out. But ultimately, it has to come from inside of us. We have to be the ones to deal with our emotions. I had to be the one to deal with my wanting the endless hopelessness to go away. I had to make the trips to the psychologist. I had to, and like I said, open up about it. I had to be honest about it. So, there's things that you can do as family members, telling them that, you care about them. If they need to be driven to an appointment, doing that, and just kind of being near them, being with them. Because sometimes just sitting beside somebody quietly is all they need. But supporting them through them trying to figure out what is going on inside of them.
And not judging, because that was an issue that I ran into a lot. And my sister, I can understand, why can't you be with the family on holidays and blah, blah, blah. Why can't you just get over being depressed? And finally one day I said, why don't you just get over being fat? And that was her aha moment. Well, you know what? Sometimes you got to say the
No,
bruise.
it's so true. I just wasn't expecting you to say it,
Yeah.
but it's so true. Why can't you just get over fat? Why can't you just get over your broken arm? Why can't you just get over, I don't know, needing glasses? Let me just take out my glasses. I can totally see still. I'm good.
Yeah, why don't you just get over your addiction to heroin? Because it's that easy. It's not. So, but she got it. That was her aha moment.
Yeah. Well, that's good that she finally had that moment, because it's not an easy thing for our families to have to deal with, because it's not something that you can see, right? They have to accept that this is true for you without any type of evidence of it that they can visually hold on to.
And when I was out, the times I was out with family, I seemed happy, because I was so happy to just like be out of the house and be with people. But then I would go back to my prison and people didn't know that part because I didn't share it.
Yeah. And that's one of the hardest things, I think, is that we put on this happy face and go out in public and hi, everything's good. Yeah. And then we turn around and inside are going, wow, you are such a horrible person. You're so ugly. You're so unlovable, whatever it is, that chatter in your brain is going on and on.
Yeah. I was also annoying and no one liked me. There was a few other things. Yeah.
Yeah, no, mine was I'm stupid, and if I make a mistake, everyone will hate me.
Which puts so much pressure on us.
Yes, exactly. My big issue, well, one of, not the, but one of, is perfectionism. If I make one little itty bitty mistake, that's it. Everybody hates me and I am a worthless, useless person.
Me too. I was always the same way.
I know that's not true, but that is what my brain likes to tell me.
Well, now my brain likes it when I'm not perfect. Like if something happens and I'll just laugh at myself like, oh my God, that was so stupid. Unless I really hurt someone, which I haven't done, but yeah, I'm a human being.
Yeah. So that's something I'm still working on that part. To a certain extent, I can do that and laugh at myself, but I'm still working on it.
Yeah, every day it's a work in progress. Until the day you die, you're a work in progress.
Yeah, I like the way you said that. So what other ways did you learn to try and deal with this?
Well, I did CBT. I was living in the past. I was punishing myself from what happened at 17, and that was it. I had to learn to just make peace with it, which took a long time. And I also trained my brain to be positive, and that happened fairly quickly, which I don't understand how I did it, but everything was negative, negative, negative. Now I'll be like, everyone else is being negative. I'll be like, come on, guys, it's not that bad. And I'm like, wait, I'm the positive one here?
It's funny how some therapy can help that way.
Therapy is amazing. I think, well, especially me, because I'm very A-type. When I saw what I was doing wrong, I was like, okay, let me do it right now.
Yeah.
And it's not as easy as I'm making it sound, as you know.
No, it's not an easy thing, but it's the right thing.
Exactly. Everyone has their journey. And I want people to understand mental illness so that they don't have to have such a bad journey. Like live through my journey and get better.
Yeah, exactly. That's what this show is all about. And so therapy and CBT, for people who don't know, is cognitive behavioral therapy. It's one of the most used types of therapy, actually, especially dealing with negativity and changing your thought process.
And it really works. I'm not sure how, but therapy saved my life. I couldn't just take pills and be like, oh, okay, I'm better now. Yeah. It was really the therapy in combination with the meds that did it for me.
Yeah, exactly. The meds is almost like to just level you out to a point where the therapy can actually work.
Exactly. And I'll never go off my meds again.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. but the meds are ways so that your brain kind of quiets down the chatter enough to realize that this chatter is wrong and I can change it.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. So from there, what did you do?
Well, I'm a writer by trade. So pretty much the second my mom said, "You're depressed," I was like, well, I shouldn't have lived. Because when they found me, I was like a half hour away from death. And only because every single piece fell together, which I know was divine intervention from my dad, did I survive. So I was like, well, if I was not meant to die yet, then I have a purpose now, and it's to write a book and to help others.
Yeah,
So
that's beautiful. So tell us about this book.
my book is called 69th Street Suicide, and it talks about my entire journey of depression, like from the moment at 17 when I decided I was going to kill myself one day to when I did it when I was 54 years old, and all the thinking that I had. I explained the irrationality of my thinking. It's like people got into my head when they read the book. They get into my head and they understand how irrational I was, because people try to rationalize things like depression. We're not rational when we're depressed.
No.
We're worthless. Okay, like who's worthless? We have
Yeah.
kids, we have moms,
Yeah.
dads. We're not worthless,
Yeah.
but we think we are. So I described all that stuff so that people can see, hopefully in themselves, that they also are not worthless. And if they're thinking the same thoughts, you can get help. It's not a permanent situation.
That's awesome. That was actually one of the biggest things that my therapist worked on me with right at the beginning, was that I would say, whatever, I'm worthless. And she goes, okay, so where's my evidence? I don't have any evidence. She goes, okay, so why is this true then? I go, I guess it's not. Right. And then, I'd say the next thing where I'm stupid. She goes, okay, where's my evidence? She goes, didn't you tell me that you graduated at the top of your class in college? Well, yeah. Then you're stupid because I made one spelling mistake in grade 6. Like, there's no real evidence. And so that's actually a trick that I'm going to share with everybody right now. Use that when your brain starts saying you are worthless or stupid or whatever it happens to be. Ask yourself, what is the evidence? Because if you can't come up with some evidence, and I don't mean the spelling mistake I had in grade 6, that's not good enough evidence, then clearly what you're thinking is not based in reality. And so you've got to change that mindset. And I'm not saying that's easy, and I'm not a therapist. That's just, like I said, one of the tricks that I learned. And so I'm sharing my trick with everybody here. You reminded me of that.
I like that. I'm going to try that.
Yeah, do it. It worked really well. And even in certain situations where I have to tell somebody something that's going to be difficult, it was actually at the time, so this is a few years ago, at the time that I was talking about this specific issue with my therapist, I was working part-time, and my child was actually away at treatment, and he was coming home from treatment in like a couple of weeks. So my hours at work were going to be, I needed to change them, but I was so worried to talk to this person and tell them that, because they were going to think that I was a horrible person, that I was no good at my job, that I should just be fired, right? And all of these. And so she goes, so what is your evidence? Has this person ever given you any indication that they were going to yell at you if you say something? Well, no. And I had known them for years before I actually was working with them. Is there any proof that this person is going to be upset that you need to change your hours? Well, no, there's no proof of that.
Mm-hmm.
Do they know the situation that your child is about to come home and that things are going to change? Well, yeah. So it's not going to be a surprise to them when you say it. Well, no. So it was just like all of her questions. I was like, oh, I have absolutely no reason to think the way I'm thinking. So I guess I'm more free now to say what I need to say.
Exactly. I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, I do that all the time, but when these moments pop into my head, I'm like, oh, I gotta share.
Yeah.
But what we were talking about your book and how you want your book to be out there to share with people so that they can live sort of through your bad time and not have to go through their own bad time and see it in themselves so they can get the help that they need. And the one thing, because I looked a lot for this, so one thing my book does that I have not found another book that does is share the why. And especially throughout the whole period that I was depressed. I explain why
things happened and what I was thinking. And, if someone said, oh, I can't, see you today, they hate me. They were only seeing me because they felt bad saying no. They, I'm annoying. I share all that. So when everyone's like, I don't understand why they did that. I don't understand why they did that. Hopefully when they read my book, they gain a lot of insight into why we do what we do.
That's fantastic. I have not had a chance to read it yet, but it is, on my list to be read. And I'm really looking forward to it. Even more now because I know a little bit more about what's going to be in it. But just based on the title, I was very intrigued.
Oh, good. I lived on 69th Street when I did it. So I did it.
Oh, okay. That makes sense now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's fun.
Yeah, when I saw that title, I was so intrigued that I was like, okay, well, I've got these other ones that I've got to finish reading first. But yeah, I'm very intrigued for that. And I love knowing that you put the why in there because, yeah, not too many other books do that. But
No, especially when Kate Spade killed herself the same week that Anthony Bourdain did. Why? They're rich, they're famous. They have everything they could want. Well, no, you can't buy your mental health.
Exactly. Yeah, from the outside looking in, it looks like a fabulous life, but that means nothing for what we're feeling on the inside.
Exactly. We hide it well.
Oh yeah, we can be great at that.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing, we shouldn't be.
Exactly.
So where can people pick up their copy of your book? It's
on Amazon. It's paperback or Kindle, and it's 69th Street Suicide, and the 69th is spelled out, so SIXTY-NINTH, and it's also really good for loss survivors because it explains maybe why their person did what they did. Like I was explaining to someone because their child had taken their life, and I was explaining that she told me something, she shared something. I said, well, it's probably because this, and that. That's what she was thinking. She goes, oh my God, like I never look at it that way. Because only depressed people can look at depression the correct way.
Yeah, because it's completely irrational, like you said.
Yeah. And she's like, it really helped me. Like, I've had more than one person say that I really helped them. So I served my purpose.
Good. And you're continuing to do it by doing interviews like this.
Yeah, I really want to get my book out because I want people to stop with the stigma, and I want people to see that they're depressed or suffer any kind of mental illness and that they can get better. And I'm never going to say, if I can get better, you can, because I don't say stuff like that. I hated when people said stuff like that or compared my pain to someone else's. Well, you don't live under a bridge like the homeless person. So I was like, but that doesn't mean my pain is not as bad as his.
Exactly. And here's the thing about mental health is, and you brought up, Kate Spade and stuff, who had what appears to be everything. So all of these outside worldly items or things that we can see has no bearing on what we're feeling on the inside. And so if one person lives in a mansion and one person lives under a bridge, you have no idea what each of them are feeling. The person under the bridge might be the happiest person ever, and the person in the mansion might not be. They might be the most depressed person ever. You just don't know, right? So you can't make assumptions. You can't make judgments about it. All you can do is be there for them, right?
Don't compare. This is just some helpful tips. Don't compare someone's pain to someone else's. Everyone's pain is their own individual pain. It's not a contest. Don't say, oh, just get over it. Because if it was that easy, we would all just get over it and move on with our lives. So, and if someone says, because I did this, I isolated, and people would be like, oh, I just want to come over. And I was like, I don't want company. Yeah. That's okay if someone says that. Like, don't knock on their door and say, hi, I'm here anyway, because that is not a good thing to do.
Yeah.
But even if you just call them or send a text every day saying, I'm thinking of you. Yeah. It means a lot to someone who feels like they're all alone.
Yeah, those are great tips. And where can people follow you?
On Facebook, 69th Street Suicide Talk, and on Instagram, 69th Street Suicide.
Excellent. And I'm going to have those links in the description below so that people can very easily find you, follow you, get a hold of your book. And of course, when I do finish, get a chance to finish reading your book, I will be posting my review of it. So everybody can keep their eyes out for that as well. And thank you so very, very much for being on the show. I really appreciate your honesty and openness. That is the most important thing that we can do.
Because everyone deserves to have a happy life. If more of us guide people that way, hopefully more people will seek help without being embarrassed or thinking that they're such a loser because, oh my God, I can't get out of bed in the morning. It's okay. Your brain is sick. It's okay. And hopefully you'll get the help you need and you do get better.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I don't want to say anything else because that's the perfect note to end it on. Thank you.
Thanks, Randi.
That was a good episode. I think we had so many really great, insightful tips there. She shared so openly and honestly, which we all know is so important. I say it every episode. So make sure to check out her links down in the description below. Show her some love. Get a copy of that book. I am really looking forward to reading it even more now than before, because she's just such a very cool person and has been through some pretty intensive, deep moments in her life. And to come out stronger on the other side is amazing. As well, if you are part of our Patreon, then there will be some behind the scenes footage of our conversation afterwards. And don't forget that we have a merch store, and 10% of the proceeds from the merch store goes back to the Canadian Mental Health Association. And remember, the only way to end the stigma of mental health is to speak openly and honestly. Bye.